Why he appears in your mind when you're finally peaceful. You're lying in bed, finally relaxed after an exhausting day. No worries, no urgent issues, just you and that comforting silence. It should be the perfect time, but then he appears. His face invades her thoughts out of nowhere. Why? Why just now? When you weren't thinking about anything. When you finally got a moment of peace. This is no coincidence. It is not weakness. And it definitely doesn't mean you're still stuck with it. What I'm going to reveal in this video will completely change the way you view these invasive thoughts. There is a deep, almost disturbing psychological reason why the image of him emerges precisely in his quietest moments. And when you understand this hidden mechanism of your mind, everything will make sense. Get ready, because what you're going to find out about the workings of your psyche can be shocking. Let's unravel the mystery behind these unwanted thoughts and, more importantly, how you can finally break free from them for real. 1. The paradox of mental silence. There's something very strange going on inside your head, and you need to understand it now. When your life is chaotic, full of problems and commitments, you barely have time to think about it. But at the exact moment when everything finally calms down, when you breathe a sigh of relief thinking you've made it on, there it is again. It sounds like a cruelty of fate, but the truth is much more complex and fascinating than you might think. Your mind works as a system of priorities. During the day, while you're busy solving work issues, taking care of the family, dealing with bills, your brain is in survival mode. It selects only the most urgent information, those that require immediate action. Everything that is not a priority is filed in the background, waiting for the right moment to emerge. When you finally stop, when you lie in bed or take that relaxing bath, your nervous system receives a signal. It is now safe to process what has been stored. It is as if all day long you have pushed several mental drawers to close, and in the silence of the night they begin to open on their own, one by one. The problem is that unresolved feelings have a magnetic force. They don't disappear just because you've decided to ignore them, or because you're too busy to feel them. In fact, the more you try not to think about something, the more mental energy you expend to keep it locked away. And that energy needs to be released at some point. Peace scares you because it removes all the distractions you used as a shield. Without the external noise, you come face to face with the internal noise. And this noise has a name. It has a face, it has a story that still pulsates inside you even if you swear you've overcome everything. This explains why so many women unconsciously sabotage their own moments of tranquility. They fill the agenda, fix problems where there are none, create unnecessary drama, all to avoid the silent confrontation with what really hurts. Because deep down there is a paralyzing fear of discovering that maybe you haven't overcome as much as you would like to believe. And this discovery, as painful as it may seem, is the first real step toward true liberation. 2. When the mind lets its guard down. Have you ever noticed how the most intense thoughts about him always arrive at the most unexpected moments? It's not when you're sad or lonely, but just when you're well, happy, enjoying a good time. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he appears. And you ask yourself, what's happening to me? Why now? The answer lies in the defense mechanism that your mind has created without you realizing it. For weeks, maybe months, you have built psychological walls to protect yourself. She remained strong, focused, determined to move forward. Your brain got the message. This person is a threat to your emotional balance, so let's keep our distance. And it worked, at least on the surface. But these defenses consume a tremendous amount of mental energy. It's like holding a door shut while someone tries to open it on the other side. You can keep it closed, but you need to be constantly alert, pushing, resisting, and no one can live like this forever. There comes a time when you relax, even if it's just for a few seconds. This relaxation is dangerous for those who still carry open wounds. When you are truly at peace, your inner vigilance decreases. The defenses you've built up with so much effort begin to unravel naturally, because your body and mind need to rest. And it is in this gap, in this moment of vulnerability, that repressed memories find space to emerge. It's not your fault. It is not weakness. It's simply the way the human brain works. He expects you to be safe enough to process what has been stored. It's as if your psyche says, Now that you're fine, we can finally look at it more clearly, without so much immediate suffering. The interesting thing is that this happens because, on some deep level, you haven't completely closed that chapter yet. There is something there that needs to be understood, felt, elaborated. It could be unexpressed anger, unhealed hurt, words you never said, questions that were left unanswered. As long as these emotional fragments are loose within you, they will keep coming back in your moments of peace, asking for attention, asking for resolution. And the more you try to suppress those thoughts when they arise, the stronger they'll come back the next time. It's a vicious cycle that only ends when you stop fighting it and start understanding what's really going on beneath the surface. If this message resonated with you and you feel ready to understand what your soul is still trying to complete, discover the Jung Method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. The unresolved emotional ghost. There's a hard truth that no one likes to hear. You can end a relationship without actually ending the emotional connection. You can block the number, delete the photos, avoid the places you frequented together, but none of this erases what was registered inside you. These invisible marks are the emotional ghosts, and they don't fade with time. They just sit still, waiting. An emotional ghost is not the person itself. It is what they represented to you. It's the frustrated expectations, the shared dreams that never came true, the version of yourself that existed next to him. When that relationship ends, these parts don't automatically die. They wander through your psyche, with nowhere to go, no way to exist. The most disturbing thing is that these ghosts feed precisely on your peace. They don't show up when you're busy because there's no room for them. But when you slow down, when your mind is free, they find the door open, and they enter without asking permission, bringing with them all the emotional charge you thought you had left behind. Many women confuse this with love. They think that if they still remember him in moments of peace, it must be because they still love, because he is still important. But this is not the case. What you feel is not necessarily love for the person he was, but rather an attachment to what that relationship meant in your life. It's nostalgia for who you were when you were with him, not for him himself. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. When you understand that you are dealing with an emotional ghost and not a real, present feeling, you can begin to dismantle that illusion. You realize that you don't need to resolve anything with him. You don't need an external closure, a last conversation, or answers that he will never give you. True closure happens within you. It's when you finally accept that that version of your life is over, that those dreams won't come true, that you need to build new meanings and new expectations. It hurts, I'm not going to lie. It hurts because it's a symbolic death, a mourning for something you deeply valued. But it is also liberating, because as long as you feed these ghosts with your attention, with your mental energy, with your secret hopes that maybe one day things will be different, you won't really be free. You will be stuck in an emotional limbo where you can't really move forward or turn back. 4. The trap of false overcoming. You told everyone that you overcame it. She posted motivational phrases, went out with her friends, smiled again. On the outside, everything indicates that you have turned the page. But inside there's a strange feeling that something isn't right, as if you were playing the role of someone who has moved on, but without really feeling it. This is the most common and most dangerous trap: false overcoming. You confuse the absence of intense pain with real healing. It confuses being functioning on a day-to-day basis with being genuinely well. And the worst thing is that everyone around you believes it too, which further reinforces the illusion. False overcoming happens when you skip emotional steps, when you rationally decide that you've suffered enough and now it's time to move on, without giving your heart the time it needs to process it all. You use willpower to push feelings under the rug and convince yourself that this is maturation. But feelings don't work like that. They do not obey his rational will. You can choose not to cry, not to talk about him, not to show weakness. But that doesn't make feelings go away. They just get compressed, waiting for the moment to leak. And they always leak in moments of peace because that's when your guard is down. It's like trying to hold water in your closed hands. As long as you keep your fists tight and tense, you can hold on for a while. But the moment he relaxes, the water escapes through his fingers. That's why it appears exactly when you least expect it, because you built a facade of overcoming so convincing that even you believed it. But your unconscious knows the truth. He knows that you didn't process the anger, didn't allow the sadness, didn't honor the pain that needed to be felt. True overcoming is not beautiful and inspiring as it appears on social networks. It is messy, confusing, full of comings and goings. There are days when you feel strong and in control, and others when you fall apart for seemingly silly reasons. And that's okay. This is human. This is real. This is honest. The problem is that we live in a culture that requires quick overcoming. No one has the patience to see someone suffer for a long time. So you learn to hide, to pretend, to speed up a process that naturally takes the time it needs to take, and pay the price for it with these invasive thoughts that don't leave you alone. As long as you don't allow overcoming to happen at the right pace in the right way, it will continue to appear in your moments of tranquility, because those moments are the only opportunity your unconscious has to remind you, there's still work to do here. 5. What your unconscious is trying to say. The unconscious mind is like a pushy child that pulls your clothes until you pay attention. She doesn't give up, she doesn't get tired, she doesn't accept being ignored. And when she wants to tell you something important, she will repeat the message in every possible way until you finally listen. Those thoughts about him that appear out of nowhere are messages. They are not random. They are not without purpose. Your unconscious is trying to show you something you don't want to see yet, something you're consciously avoiding facing. It may be that it is reminding you of patterns that you need to break. Perhaps you chose this man for the same reasons that you chose others before him. Perhaps there is a pattern of self-sabotage, of attraction to those who are not emotionally available, of accepting crumbs of affection. Or it could be that your unconscious is signaling old wounds, that this relationship has reopened. Sometimes the pain you feel is not just about him, but about all the times you felt rejected, not chosen, not valued. He was just the trigger that brought out a much older and deeper wound. There is also the possibility that these thoughts are a warning about something that you need to rescue in yourself. When you were with him, who were you? What did you sacrifice? What parts of you were silenced to maintain that relationship? Your unconscious may be asking you to retrieve those lost pieces. The language of the unconscious is not as clear as the words I am using now. It speaks through symbols, sensations, sudden images, thoughts that seem to come out of nowhere. And the image of him appearing in your mind is one of those symbols. It represents something bigger that you need to understand. Ignoring these messages is like turning off the fire alarm without putting out the fire. You may be able to silence the noise temporarily, but the problem is still there, growing, spreading, waiting to explode even more intensely. The way is not to fight against these thoughts, but to learn to decode them. When it pops into your mind in the middle of a moment of peace, don't despair. Don't blame yourself. Do not try to push the image away immediately. Instead, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is this thought trying to show me? What do I still need to understand or resolve? Sometimes the answer comes quickly, crystal clear. Other times it takes time, requires reflection, perhaps even professional help to interpret. But the simple act of being willing to listen, of recognizing that there is a message there, already completely changes the dynamic. You stop being a victim of your own thoughts and become an investigator of your own psyche. 6. Why peace bothers so much. It sounds contradictory, but for many people, peace is more frightening than chaos. Chaos is familiar, predictable in its unpredictability. You know how to function in the middle of the storm because you've done it before. But peace brings a deafening silence that exposes everything you have been avoiding. When your life is constantly moving, you don't have to truly feel it. It can work on autopilot, reacting to external stimuli without ever looking inward. It is a form of survival that works very well in the short term, but that takes a heavy toll over time. Peace removes all your avoidance strategies. With no dramas to solve, no crises to manage, no emergencies that require your immediate attention, you are left alone with yourself. And that company can be extremely uncomfortable when you carry so much unprocessed emotional weight. There's something very profound going on here. When you finally reach a moment of tranquility and immediately start thinking about it, your brain is actually saying, now that we're safe, we can handle this. It is a protective mechanism. Your nervous system doesn't allow you to process trauma and pain while in survival mode. He expects you to be in a safe place. The problem is that you interpret this arrival of memories as a problem, as proof that you have not overcome anything. But in reality, it is the opposite. It's proof that you're finally safe enough to truly heal. Your body knows that you can now handle it without completely falling apart. Many women develop an addiction to chaos precisely because of this. They sabotage healthy relationships, create problems at work, get into unnecessary fights, all to keep the adrenaline level high and avoid confrontation with the inner emptiness. Because deep down, very deep down, they know that if they stop, if they really rest, they will have to face everything they are running away from. Peace bothers because it requires brutal honesty. You can't lie to yourself when you're silent. You can't pretend that everything is fine when there are no distractions to hide the truth. Peace is an unforgiving mirror that reflects exactly what is happening inside you, without filters, without masks, without justifications. And maybe that's exactly why he appears in these moments. Not because you are weak or dependent, but because there is finally room to look honestly at that experience and understand what it really meant. To feel what needs to be felt, to learn what needs to be learned, and finally to release what needs to be released. 7. The difference between remembering and being stuck. This is the most important distinction you need to make, and it's also the hardest to see when you're in the middle of the situation. There is a huge difference between remembering someone and being emotionally attached to that person. But how do you know which category you fit into? Remembering is natural, human, inevitable. Someone who was part of your life, who shared important moments with you, will obviously leave marks in your memory. These marks don't disappear just because the relationship is over. And neither should they. They are part of your history, your journey, who you have become. When you just remember, the thought comes, you recognize. Maybe you feel a pang of nostalgia or sadness, and then it goes away naturally. There is no drama. There is no prolonged suffering. There is no need to fight against it. It's like looking at an old photo. You see it, you feel something, and you move on. Being imprisoned is completely different. When you're stuck, the thought about it doesn't come and go. It arrives and settles, takes up space, consumes energy. You start to create narratives, to imagine scenarios, to mull over old conversations, to fantasize about possibilities. Thought turns into a spiral that pulls you down. The imprisoned person lives in the past or in imaginary futures. She rewrites history 1,000 times in her head, always trying to understand what went wrong, what she could have done differently. Or he creates alternative versions where things work, where he comes back, where everything magically resolves. Another clear sign that you're stuck. Your present decisions are still influenced by it. You choose not to go to certain places so as not to meet him, or on the contrary, you frequent places in the secret hope of seeing him. His clothes, his hair, his social media posts are still chosen thinking about how he will react, even if you don't consciously admit it. When you're stuck, there's a hidden expectation that he will realize his value, that he will repent, that he will come back asking for forgiveness. Even if you tell everyone you don't want anything to do with him anymore, there's a part of you that still waits, that still keeps the door ajar, that still believes in some kind of different outcome. The woman who only remembers has already built a new life. She has goals that have nothing to do with him, relationships that don't compare to what they've had, moments of genuine happiness that exist independently of him. It may appear in her thoughts from time to time, but it no longer has power over your emotions or decisions. Real freedom is never thinking about him again. This is impossible, and it is not even the goal. Freedom is to think about it without suffering, to remember without breaking it, to recognize what it represented without having to constantly relive it. It's having peace with the fact that it's over and that you're fine anyway. If you still feel a tightness in your chest every time you think about him, if you still check his social media compulsively, if you still feel intense anger or hurt, you're not just remembering, you're trapped. And recognizing this is the first step to finally truly freeing yourself. 8. How to turn these moments to your advantage. Now that you understand why it appears in your moments of peace, it's time to learn how to use it to your advantage. Yes, you read that right. These invasive thoughts can become your greatest tools for growth and healing if you know how to deal with them. The first thing you need to do is stop fighting. Every time you try to force a thought out of your mind, you're actually giving it more power. It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant. The simple effort of avoiding it makes the image even more present. So when it pops up in your thoughts, don't panic. Don't start that self-talk of self-blame and despair. Instead, take a deep breath and observe the thought with curiosity, as if you were a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. What exactly is going through your mind? Is it a specific memory, a fantasy about the future, a physical feeling of lack? Just observe without judging, without trying to change anything. The next step is to ask yourself, what is this thought showing me? Is there any emotion underneath it that I haven't fully processed yet? Any lessons I haven't learned yet? Any patterns that keep repeating themselves in my life? Sometimes you'll find that the thought about it is actually connected to something much bigger. Maybe it's about your fear of being alone, about your difficulty trusting, about how you choose partners who aren't emotionally available. Use these moments as opportunities to get to know yourself better. Another powerful technique is reframing. Instead of seeing these thoughts as proof of weakness, start seeing them as signs that you're finally safe enough to heal. Your brain wouldn't bring you these memories if it didn't believe you can handle them now. It's almost a vote of confidence from your unconscious. You can also use these moments to practice conscious detachment. When the thought of him arrives, acknowledge his presence and then imagine him moving away, like a cloud passing through the sky. You see the cloud, acknowledge its existence, but you don't have to grasp it or stop it from going its natural way. Some women find it helpful to write about these thoughts, not to brood, but to empty the mind. Take a notebook and pour it all down on paper without censorship, without trying to make sense. Just write down what you're feeling, thinking, remembering. Then you can even burn or throw away the pages. The important thing is to get it out of you. If the thoughts are accompanied by very intense emotions, allow yourself to feel. Cry if you need to cry. Scream into a pillow if you need to vent anger. Let the emotion go through your body instead of getting stuck in your throat or chest. Emotions are like waves. They go up, peak, and then naturally go down. But only if you allow them to flow. And finally, be patient with yourself. Healing is not linear. There are days when you'll feel completely free and others when you'll feel like you're back to square one. This is normal. It's part of the process. The important thing is that each time you consciously deal with these thoughts, you are one step closer to true liberation. One day, and that day will come, it will appear in your thoughts, and you will just smile. You will remember with affection what you experienced, recognize the learning. Thank you for what that experience taught you and move forward without weight, without pain, without attachment. And at that moment, you will know that you are finally free.